Hi folks, I'm Nathan with Two Guys to Ride, and welcome to our how-to video on the 2021 BMW 750i with the X-Drive. Today I'll be covering the driver's information and infotainment screens. I'll do a general overview, show you how to access information, and do a deep dive. Let's get started.
Today we're working with our friends at Sears Imported Autos, selling beautiful Mercedes-Benz in Minnetonka, Minnesota.
So the driver's information screen is an all-digital 12.3-inch screen. Now, it is not as customizable as other manufacturers have made, but there are some things that you can do. So, currently on the dashboard, as you see, of course, you've got miles per hour, sort of an analog-looking gauge with a digital, traditional digital speedometer in the middle, and then you've got sign reading recognition at the bottom in that white rectangle, clock time, of course, miles till empty, your fuel gauge, and then some dummy lights on the left. In the middle, there's an area that you can do some customization with, and then over on the far right, you have got an RPM gauge. I do like it that it runs opposite direction from the speedometer. And then, of course, you've got your, inside of that, you've got several things that you can configure. And then outside temperature at the bottom, and then your engine temperature on the far right. So let's start with the far right RPM gauge. And to customize that, what you're going to do is you're going to use the turn signal stock, and there are two buttons on there. The one you want to use is going to be labeled BC, and if I push that, you're going to get miles per gallon. And if I go to the next one, you're going to get, this is where your odometer is. So the odometer is not below. So that is where your total odometer is at the top. It's the only place you can find it. And then data sends individual reset. And then you can see that information. It also shows you your average speed. Click it again, and you're going to get a pound-feet of torque and horsepower gauges. G meter. Click it again. You get media. Click it again, and we're back to where we were. Now, I'm going to go back to the media screen for just a minute. Over on the far right of the steering wheel, you've got a rotary knob here that you can scroll up and down. You've got a plus and minus, and then you've got these two arrows. So the plus and minus will do your volume control from the steering wheel. So I'm going to use either the left or right, doesn't matter which one. And then it's going to go to like the next station. So you can see it's just kind of cutting up. It's the next available station. And you can go backwards the same way. All right, so this button will change between the sources if you click on it. But it's being a little sticky, to be honest. So it's taking me a while to get from FM to AM, but that's what it can do. You do notice a cool little background graphic on the just to the right of where the square is that says Sirius XM. So that's really neat. Okay, so this should change your sources, and then this should change the channels within that source. Okay, that's the right gauge. You can customize what's in the center of between the two gauges, but to do that, you need to go into the infotainment screen. In the infotainment screen, click on Car, click on Settings, and then Displays. Now, go up to Instrument Panel, and this is where you can change a couple of things. So, for instance, the central display area, which is the one you see in between the gauges, currently is set to map view. If I click here, I can turn that off. I can turn that back on. I can go to Route Preview, and that'll give you your turn-by-turn stuff, and that's all it'll give you. I can do Assisted Driving View. Okay, and that's where you get your lane keep assist, dynamic cruise control, side collision, cross traffic warning, all that kind of stuff is going to show up in here. Now, under that, you have got something called converted speed, and if I click on it, watch the speedometer. So now I've got a digital miles per hour at the top and a digital kilometers per hour at the same time on the bottom. Reduce mode. Okay, now I've got rid of all the numbers, just simplify things a little bit. Take that back off, bring the numbers back. Speed limit assist. This will warn you if you're going above the speed limit. And then you can click here, say warn when speeding. Okay, excess speed display or not. Okay, if you turn that on, what's going to happen is if you go over your HUD display, it's going to start to flash red, the actual speed, and then the sign reading square, the rectangle that's there, will start to flash at you. So kind of cool. Distance control, if I adjust that, okay, then distance driving is automatically adjusted depending on that driving situation. So this is where you can adjust some of those things. Now, you can also go here and you can say, I want a head-up display, the information, or I want it just in the instrument panel. And that takes it out of the HUD. Okay, so you can make that change. It's really nice to have it in the HUD though. All right, let's go back one. All right, so the last one is driving mode view. And so you can't click on anything here, but what that does is when I change the modes, for instance, right now I am, I believe, in comfort. So that's what you're seeing. Okay, comfort and comfort plus, but they look the same. If I go to sport, the gauges change a little. If I go to Eco Pro, they change a little bit more. And then if I go to adaptive, they change a little bit again. So those are the only ways that you can adjust the information that's in this beautiful display. I wish there was more, but it is a very nice display. And it's nice to be able to have navigation right in the driver's information screen or turn by turn, either way. All right, that's it for the driver's information screen. Next, we're going to move over to the infotainment screen. Okay, so the infotainment screen is a 12.3-inch screen. It has a Bowers & Wilkins audio system, which is 14 speakers and 1,400 watts. So plenty of power. All right, now this does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And it has Bluetooth, it has AM and FM radio, HD radio, Sirius XM, navigation, all sorts of neat things. All right, so on the screen itself, there are no physical buttons. It's all touch. You can use the rotary dial touch command center down here if you want. It's got shortcuts for everything, just like kind of like you see up here. Okay, so down here you've got some physical buttons for the infotainment. Basically, the difference between mode and band is going to circulate you between your three radios, Sirius XM, AM, and FM. And it's just a quick push, and it changes. You can see it kind of up on the top right of the infotainment screen. If you go to mode, you're now going to get those three plus presets. Okay? All right, so little additional thing. You got a rotary volume, push for power, and then these are your presets. You can see as I scroll my finger through it, I can just slide them, and it shows me what number I'm on. And then over here, I've got a globe, and if I put that on, if I click that, then I can get to Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, BMW Store, and installed apps. Okay, and then of course you have a tuning button. All right, so there are the physical controls. So let's go back to the home screen for a minute. BMW has set this up so you can have up to 10 home screens. So this one's only got one, and you've got a clock or calendar, you've got sport displays, and then your position. Okay, if you want to adjust that, change that at all, go up to here and click on menu, and you can actually change the one you have, or you can go to add page or delete page. Now I'm gonna add one just to show you how to do it. So I go here and I say, well, I want media radio. That's gonna be the first thing. All right, and then I'm gonna press this little button right here, and it just made media a smaller window. So now I can add a new one underneath media, and I'm gonna say communication. And then I'm gonna go over here, and for that one, I want, let's see, your choices, traffic map view, driving style and as sport displays, trip data, drive recorder, personal assistant. So I'm just gonna say weather. All right, now if I say done, There it is. So that's how you customize it. Now you see I've got 2 home screens. And again, you can have up to 10 of these. Okay, now let's go through and talk about the basics of all the apps here. So if I go to media and I go to FM radio, so you can go through here and just click on whatever you want. You can also go to a manual search, okay, and scroll through. You can use the dial down below in the center console if you want to do that too. So if I want to make something a favorite here, I'm going to go down to one of my buttons here and just press and hold. You see the line working, and there it is. Now I've saved it as a favorite. If I use the plus and minus, I can go digit by digit. Okay, whereas this is a little faster. So a couple different ways to tune. If you want to go to your sound settings, you can go right here, and you got, of course, treble and bass, and you can just slide. You can use the plus or minus if you want. Fader, equalizer, volume settings. If I go here, you got speed volume, volume reduction. You just got all sorts of things. Okay, park distance control. You've got a sound or gong for messages and stuff. You can adjust that volume right there in case it's too loud. Okay, but that's where that all is. The other thing I should point out is that when you're in a particular screen, there's usually a little window over here. You can just drag it out. So here I have all my sources right here. Sirius XM, FM, AM, News, Spotify, Bluetooth audio, screen mirroring, so Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, mobile devices. And then, of course, you can click on Personalize menu, and you can say, what do you want to show up here? So if you never listen to AM radio, you can take that out of the possibilities that will show up for media. Right. Okay, AM radio is going to look exactly the same. Just a few less options over here. Sirius XM is going to look the same, but it's got a few additional things, like a time shift and a program guide. But your sound settings is always right down there. All right, so that's media. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go back to communication, and there's no telephone currently hooked up to this, so I am going to hook my telephone up to it. I'm hooked. That sounds weird. I'm going to hook my cell phone. So to do that, I'm first going to go to telephone. I'm going to say connect new phone. All right, so I'm on my phone. I'm looking. I see it. I'm going to click on it. Okay, so I'm going to hit pair on my phone. Yes on here because those numbers match. Allow contacts and favorites to sync. For me, I say don't allow, but if this is your car, you want to click allow. That way all your contacts will be in the car system and easy to use from the voice command and so forth. So it's still pairing here. We'll give it a second. Okay, and so then it paired. All right, so if I go back to this screen here and I go to telephone, all right, so now I can look at contacts, which I don't have any, and I can go here and I can dial a number straight from here. So now it's hooked in. Okay, so let's go back here. All right, if I go down to navigation here, I do have this menu right here where I can, say where to, and I can program that in. That's really clunky. The personal assistant in the BMW 750i is pretty intuitive. So I'm going to use the voice command button on the steering wheel, and I'm just going to tell it. Find the closest car wash.
Which one of these destinations should I select?
Number 3.
Okay, I've selected DentWorks PDR. Should I start the guidance?
Yes.
Let's go.
Now, one of the things I really like about this system is that on a lot of systems, you can get it to almost everything except for to tell it to actually start. And in this one, it asks you right away. It just prompts, and it's right there. So that's really nice. Now I want to use voice command to cancel navigation.
I've ended the guidance.
Okay, now within navigation here, I can pull out this menu. I can look at my destinations, and I can look at received destinations that someone sent me. As far as the setting of the map itself, if I take a look at settings for a minute, okay, on the map itself, I can have day-night mode, map style. If I want an alternative looking one, we'll see what that looks like in a minute. Parking and refuel suggestions, a reduce mode, and points of interest on the map. Reduce mode just takes some things off the screen that the navigation really thinks you probably don't need to see. All right. You can configure services here, so traffic info on, online search results on, and so forth, parking. And anyone that you don't want, like I don't want alternative routes, you can click that and it goes off. All right. So that's the basic settings here. Okay, that's navigation. So I'm gonna press the home button right there. Let's go down to car. On car, this vehicle has a lot of ways you can customize. So, all right, vehicle status. So on vehicle status here, you can look at tire pressure monitor. I love the graphics here, especially the green tires. Okay, oil measurement. Check for messages, and then required services if it has any. All right, let's go back. Of course, you have driver profiles that you can set up. Look at an owner's manual, but I think it's just easier to watch our video, and some gobbledygook regulatory notes. Now, let's take a look at settings. So under settings, we already took a little bit of a look at displays, but we didn't look at the HUD display. So this has a very nice HUD display. Looks like it's at the end of the hood at the front of the car. It is probably the area that it covers is looks like to be about another 12 inches. Okay, but you can change the brightness. You can change the height, which is a really nice feature, depending on how tall you are. And then you can rotate it left or right. So when you do these, you need to be looking in the screen. And then if I go up, you can say, what do I want in there? Well, I don't want navigation. So then navigation shows up either here or in your driver's information screen. You put it there, and you're going to get the turn-by-turn just like it looks up here. You can have additional displays. It can be automatic depending on what situation you're in. It can be just driver assistant, so cruise control, speed limit, that kind of stuff. All these different things that you can put in there. Now, you can actually even have your infotainment show up there. And then if I hit the reduced height, what it does is it squeezes everything down a little bit. I personally like it large. It just gives you a lot more area. But this is where you adjust things for the HUD display. We already looked at instrument panel earlier. Okay, and if I look at control display, all this does is I can adjust the brightness right here. Okay. Under doors, vehicle access here, there's so many things to go through. I can't go through them all, but scroll through the list. Anything that's check marked is on. So it's got a box and it's not checked. That means that's something you can turn on. Lock after starting to drive. And the doors automatically lock. Uncheck it, and they don't. Same with any of these with checked boxes. Okay? You can adjust things on the tailgate, like open with foot movement, or no, I'm not going to allow that. Close by foot movement. Allowed if it's checked, and not allowed if it's not checked. So that's how these all work. All right, I'm gonna go back here, interior lighting. All right, so here's where the ambient lighting comes in, and you can change it to any one of these. Okay, we can't pick it up in this light, but this is what it looks like. So it really gives you a nice graphic. So now, under Bowers & Wilkins, the audio system, you can also have these speakers light up when they play. That is just way cool. Ambient highlight. So you can see in the rear, I showed you, if you watched the full review of this car, I showed you where that's active. And then the passenger can touch a little light button there and shut those on or off. Okay, and then you can have it dimmed for nighttime driving or a little brighter. Now you can see the difference right there. All right. Seat comfort. Oh boy. So, for driver's seat, okay, you can have seat massage. Now, you can have back, shoulder, lumbar, upper body exercise, or whole body exercise. All right, that's the coolest feature right there. All right, you can also do this for the passenger seat and seat and armrest heating. So for the driver, you can heat the armrests with the seat, which is just, in the winter, oh, that's a nice feature. And you can set the distribution here between the back and the bottom of the seat. Do you want them to heat equally, or you want more heat in the back, more heat in the bottom? Nice. And you can do the same thing for the passenger. But boy, those heated armrests are super nice. All right. Climate control, of course, you have most of the buttons down here, but you can make some settings up here. Heating and ventilation, auto recirculate, climate control rules. You can have that off, or you can have individual conditions. So if the temperature outside goes below a certain point, they automatically come on. Okay, and then you can set that temperature. You can set the level of the heat. You can steering wheel heating. You can have it off, and then you can just use the heating button that's right on the steering wheel. Or you can do individual conditions again, and if you do that below a certain temperature and you get to set that, it automatically comes on by itself. So you get it in the car and it just turns itself on. I mean, there's just so many of these things. Seat ventilation, same thing. You can do it manually through the buttons in the climate control system, or you can program it according to ambient outside temperature. All right. Oof, lots and lots and lots of stuff. If I scroll over here a little bit, I can change some things on the remote. So all doors, when I hit the unlock button, or driver's door only. Tailgate, do I want that to unlock just the tailgate, or the taillight and the doors? Nice little graphic there. It shows you what it's going to do. Okay, so that's it right there. I'm going to press home again. Want to point out a couple of other things. If I click on the clock, that's going to bring me to my setting for changing the clock there. All right, so let's go back to car for a minute. And down here, if I click on the gear wheel, now this is where I get into stuff like I can change the language, I can make some settings on the personal assistant, I can change the units of measure, and you can change them for consumption, distance, power, torque, pressure, and temperature. You can do them all individually. Okay, right there, this just brings us to the sound menu before, but this is sort of like the main area where you can change all the little things here. If I go over here to driving mode, all right, this is where you can customize. So Sport Individual allows you to adjust the dampening, steering, engine, transmission, and then of course interior seat support, and then you can reset to Sport Standard. But these are all customizable individually, so that you can, when you click Sport, okay, you get Sport, but if you click Sport again, you get Sport Individual. And that's where these settings will come in. And you can do the same for the Eco Pro. Driver assistance. Now, this is not where your safety stuff is. Now, you do have, sort of your safety assistance button right here. If it's lit green, every single safety system on the car is on. If it's lit in orange, only at least one, but not all safety systems are acting. And if it's completely dark, none of the safety systems are running. So green is a good color to look for. But here you go. Forward collision mitigation. This has side collision warning right here. Lane departure warning. So any one of these is going to work the same, but let's go into this one. So I can set the forward collision warning to be early, medium, or late. And it's going to help you brake and steer if you don't, okay? Don't rely on the car to do that for you, but it's going to help you if you don't. Okay, here you can turn side collision warning on or off. Lane departure warning, you can set that to where you want. And also, do you want the car to steer? right? So that's where that is. Now for driving, okay, you can have, under steering assistance, you can have the driver assisted driving view, which is what we saw on the dashboard earlier. If you don't want that, you can take that off there. Parking and maneuvering. So with the automatic parking distance control activated, if you're backing up or moving around even forward, and it senses an object, it's going to turn the cameras on. Okay, so that's really nice. And then you can have active with braking intervention, so it'll actually brake. Okay, so and then you got automatic parking. Okay, so this will do a parallel and a perpendicular park. It'll search for a spot. You just have to activate it, and I'll show you where to do that in a minute. You got cross traffic warning, on or off. Panorama view, GPS based. This is a really cool feature, and again, I'll get to that when we get to the cameras. And then you can have steering wheel feedback. Okay, for the safety system, you want a strong reaction, a medium, or a light. Okay, and then of course you have light elements. If I turn those on, you see those little red marks. So at different points during your driving, for instance, with the backup assistant, those lights come on, and they're right above the top buttons on the steering wheel. Okay, let's go back here. All right, let's take a look at the backup cameras here. So if I just put the car in reverse for a minute, you're going to get overall bird's eye view, and then currently this is my rear view camera. So in reverse, there's just a really cool feature. Okay, first of all, you've got the bird's eye view, you've got the rear view camera. But watch what happens when I turn the wheel. Everyone's used to having dynamic guidelines that swivel, but watch what this does. Can you see you see the camera moving there? Not only do the guidelines move, the camera moves. And if I were to put it in drive, it's going to do the same thing. I absolutely love that. That's just way cool. Now, of course, you can click on this camera icon, and then you can select these different views right here. All right. So if I go here, this is where you turn on automatic parking. Okay. This is where you turn up the backup assistant. So the way the backup assistant works, let's say you have a narrow driveway, and you want to back up it. Well, get the car up there once where you want it, turn on the backup assistant, and then drive down your driveway and then stop. The car will back up your driveway exactly the same way you came out of it, putting your car back exactly where you started, which is a neat feature. Second neat feature, this is showing us when the doors are fully open, will I hit anything? Well, this is just a curb, so it's no big deal, but I could end up hitting, if there's a wall there, I don't want to know. I can't open my door all the way. All right, so that's where you turn on those two things. Camera image here, I can change the brightness, the contrast, I can take off the parking aid lines or the obstacle marks, because if there is an obstacle in the way, it's going to light up and show me. Okay? And then on settings here, I can set a GPS-based location where the cameras will automatically click on, which is just way cool. All right, now I can pull out this menu here. I can get a 3D view, and then I can go around here and change the view. So at any one of these points. Now, if you're really good at doing gestures, there is a gesture where you kind of put these three fingers here, pinch, and then you go in, but I can't get it to work. But that's just really cool. So very, very, very nice camera system here. Okay, and that's it for the infotainment screen and the driver's information screen on the 2021 BMW 750i. Hope this has been helpful. Thanks for watching.